What it do, everybody? It's your boy King Crowder back again with another edition of History You May Not Know and Things That Are Not Taught in Detail for Sure. Today's lesson, we're going to focus on the cause and effect that a racial riot ensured from Jim Crow that affected the great city of Detroit, Michigan. If you're from Detroit, like, thumb, comment, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to give you some historical facts they've never probably told you in the state of Michigan's history. In 1943, Detroit, Michigan faced one of its largest riots on record in recorded history. Why did this riot happen? This riot happened because, don't forget, we were actively in World War II. The automotive industry was tugging apart due to social tensions and housing uprising. But what most people have never known is that Black Americans decided to go to Detroit, Michigan because of the auto industry and the amount of jobs available, but they were leaving Jim Crow in the South. Black Americans came to the South as many as 400,000 over the past 2 years. So what occurred was there was extreme housing shortage in that area. Black Americans were getting hired at the automotive plants all over town. The shortages of the housing caused really issues among the white Americans because they began to see so many people coming there, not blaming Jim Crow South and forcing them to leave their native where they were because of the issues in the South, not blaming the racist stuff going on in Jim Crow in this country. They decided to brand and brandish the Black Americans. The issue started because there was a housing shortage. A rumor started saying that a white mob had thrown a black mother and her baby in a Detroit roof over in the river. Black Americans in that area responded, fighting, going back into it because many of them have experienced so much racism in the South, they were already ready to go. There were multiple riots in these summers of this year due to the great migration of Black Americans leaving the South to these major areas starting to spur. So many Black Americans were coming to this area, working, getting in jobs, and the auto industry were literally hiring them instead of the European Americans. So rumors began to spread. Attitudes began to boil, and you began to see the city of Detroit rioting. 34 deaths, over 500 people injured, and over 2,000 people were arrested. All of this happened because Detroit still had its sundown towns. It still had KKK presence, and many people that were of the South were not going for it. Remember, Detroit had a racial antagonistic view until this day. Most people have no idea that Detroit is still responsible for school segregation. Look at my video prior in the comments about segregated schools and when have they integrated for more details. Let's keep going. Detroit had many people that were forming the Black Legion. They were unionizing and they were standing up against white hatred. The city of Detroit was turning into an integrated city virtually overnight. It was a lot of pressure. Remember, the war was going on. The automotive industry had to conform to said weaponry. You needed more union workers. FDA was under a presidency. The racial discrimination was still going on in these government contracts, but they needed the workers to fulfill these orders. So Black Americans literally were absorbing that. They were coming in, taking the jobs, being more skilled, starting to work. Remember, prior to Detroit's population, it was around 150,000 people. After these war crimes, 1.6 million Black Americans, 2 million Black Americans moved to the city of Detroit. Think about how shocking that was to have a city that was not as integrated as it was, to overnight you seeing a over 120% influx of people coming. They began to get working. They would begin to be in schools. They began to buy land. They began to make their own sense of wealth. The people in this area were shocked by it. They were obviously not aware of what was going on. They didn't realize that the housing shortages that would occur, the food shortages, and the natural things that occur from growth. The government was not prepared for it this time, which called a fight over the project. Remember, a housing project known as the Jonah Truth Housing Project was supposed to be built. The locals in that area kept postponing this bill because they did not want the Black Americans in that side of town. Even though they had the labor, the luggage, the income, and the residency, people were literally in the city of Detroit fighting it. Men in this area heard, why are you fighting this? And we can bring and add value to this area. People cannot be coming from outside of the city, driving in just to get to work. We need these housing structures. We need these apartment complexes. We need equality. So instead of you going about it and figuring it out, you begin to see on June 20th, 1943, it was a warm Sunday when the issue started. Most people have no idea that these issues, the Black Americans made sure that they were the stronghold on this. Many of the whites in Detroit really have not experienced that many interaction at the time, so they were shocked by how the black males were so strong and they were overtaking it and how they beat up a lot of the white partners and they had to go through things like that. The blacks were assaulting each other, burning down the white side of town, making sure they stood on business. They attacked white businesses, they looted, they stole, they took, and they did a lot of things to defend themselves. However, the governor at the time, Mr. Harry Kelly, called for FDA to intervene. They had to call in troops, impose a curfew, and restore peace all over the city of Detroit. Most people didn't realize that all of these issues came about because they were shocked and they were not prepared to handle this issue. In the aftermath, as we got the raw numbers, only 85% of the black men that were actively involved were arrested, while only 15% of the white men involved were arrested. 75% of the people that were involved in these crimes were quote-unquote black. However, looking back at it, you see it was more of an equal-minded crowd. But the people that were targeted, convicted, put in jail, arrested, were many of them were black Americans. You will see a news article at the time from a 16-year-old European descendant. I wanted to kill me a nigger. I wanted to arrest one. I wanted to lynch one. You saw this in the aftermath being publicized in local papers, news outlets, and cities. The city of Detroit and the NAACP had to stand put. They had to put Negro hooligans where they needed to belong. That is where the great city of Detroit saw its great divide. In articles later on, it is said that when Detroit black Americans started to go to the city, that is when you began to see the automotive areas start to leave the city of Detroit because they saw many amounts of wealth and American jobs began to correspond. The Great Riot of Detroit. Did you know this history? Did you know the rioting, the arson, the looting, the assault, the fights on the streets all happened? Did you know the white rioters were called white youth, sailors, and European immigrants, while the black workers were called Negroes, badgering, immigrations, bad people going against the crime? The United States government had to intervene. The Detroit police got overwhelmed, and in this attack and in this country. If you are a person from Detroit, Michigan, have you heard of this? Did you know that this ethnic crime happened on your soil? Did you know that the riots of Detroit still affected where you went to school, where you were allowed to go? And did you know that the property value is estimated to be over $33 million that faced damage in 2023 dollars? It's your boy, King Crowder, back again with another historical lesson that I hope you learned something about the crimes that happened in the Midwest. If you are from Detroit, hopefully you learned some of this because these are things that are not taught in Michigan school system. The ethnic crimes of 1943, what happened when many black Americans were forced to leave the South due to Jim Crow, coming to a city to seek peace, refuge, and way to provide your family. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Smash the channel. Let me know your thoughts. And if you're from Detroit, let me know in the comments. It's your boy, checking out. Peace.